On occasion, you have to take a half step back.
The ratings are going to go down. There's no question they're going to go down.
We're still fighting this out, and we're still appealing.
I'm not happy with the direction Stone Cold Steve Austin's going. I ain't happy with the direction the whole company's going.
Still a wrestler who acts? Are you now an actor who wrestles?
That's a good question.
It takes a while to build stars. It takes a while to build back up.
With the WWF eliminating all its competitors in the business in the past 10 months to now make the company's main competitive goals being chasing its own records from the peak of the previous 3 years, 2002 in the first full year of Vince McMahon having complete monopoly in the industry opened already in one of the most hyped shows symbolically in the company's home base of Madison Square Garden, with the show which at one point was targeted to be the date for the debut of the brand split concept being built around Triple H's TV return after a month of mega hype from long-term injury, seeing the company loading up the show from top to bottom with Vince and Flair kicking it off with the biggest opening audience in over a month, followed by the top match of the night placed an hour later with Rock and Austin teaming in the Garden against Booker and Bossman to result in the biggest viewership spike of the night, drawing over 7.3 million viewers in Raw's most watched quarter in months, before closing the show with Hunter's return with the biggest audience since August 2001 at over 7.6 million to drive the first Raw of the year to a 5-month high of over 6.6 million viewers, with the momentum to start 2002 continuing throughout January heading in and coming out of the Rumble pay-per-view, seeing the 2002 Royal Rumble event with a massive card featuring Rock vs Jericho for the undisputed title, the first ever Flair vs McMahon match in Flair's first match back in nearly a decade and one of the biggest star power Rumble matches in history, drawing a joint record of over 670,000 buys, with the added keynote of drawing the number without the company's biggest pay-per-view provider in DirectTV, which usually will result in over 10% of the buys to push the pay-per-view well into the 700,000 buys range under normal circumstances. While in the background the biggest story in the industry was developing throughout the month, with Hogan, Hall and Nash all finalizing a deal to come in together as the NWO, starting one of the biggest media storms ever seen in the business, with the biggest TV audience of the month coming on January 24th with the surreal image of the 3 letters shown for the first time on WWF television, closing the SmackDown broadcast at near record levels, averaging 7.5 million viewers, driven by a loaded-up second hour featuring 2 big star power main events of Austin vs Booker and Rock vs Angle, with the winners facing off on Monday for a shot at the title, along with the payoff of the show-long angle of McMahon and the NWO spiking to a 4.5 rating with over 8.1 million viewers.
Rock and Austin versus the NWO!
How do you feel about headlining one more WrestleMania with The Rock?
Oh my God!
With unprecedented buzz in the industry for their arrival, with massive anticipation built for their debut in every area of the industry, from the behind-the-scenes locker room response to the crowd reactions in the buildings, with political fireworks about to go off, with more all-time top stars under one company than at any point in history. After a month of hype for their debut, with Vince McMahon closing the build-up by showing up to Raw declaring that he is there to see the before 6 days to No Way Out, February 18th saw the road to WrestleMania 18 simultaneously starting and peaking on the same night, with one of the most hyped shows ever on Raw also delivering on every level to put on one of the hottest broadcasts in wrestling television history, kicking off already with a previously unimaginable scenario of Steve Austin calling out the NWO with Hogan, Hall and Nash debuting on television, setting the stage for the big segment of the night, with Hogan returning to the ring 40 minutes later for his WWF return promo after 9 years, saying that he put the company on the map as the biggest star in history to set up the cue to bring out Rock to the ring for the response, with the historic visual of the two biggest names ever associated with wrestling standing in the same ring for the first time. As seconds after 10 p.m. on February 18, 2002, wrestling magic was created in an instant, with Rock challenging Hogan to headline one more WrestleMania against him as the Allstate Arena exploded, sending the Chicago crowd into a frenzy with dueling Rocky and Hogan chants with the entire segment, which went over 3/4, spiking to Raw's most watched segment since August 2001 with over 7.8 million viewers and the most watched full quarter hour since the start of Rock's return segment on July 30th. With the nearly hour-long Rock-Hogan NWO angle seeing a massive spike of viewers per home, totaling 1.5 million viewers per rating point, in an unprecedented figure on cable television, and with Rock written off for the next 2 weeks while headlining an overseas tour in Asia through early March. The follow-up of the all-time great segment saw SmackDown 3 days later jumping to near-record levels, averaging 7.6 million viewers, in a rare situation seeing the company recapping the majority of the highlights from Monday with a 13-minute video package to bump the show near the 8 million viewers range already midway through the first hour and stay there for the rest of the night, built around an NWO vs Steve Austin chase all over the building, culminating in the main event quarter with over 8.4 million viewers, resulting in the NWO's debut week against Rock and Austin on February 18th to 21st, drawing the company's most watched week of WWF television in over 6 months, combining for over 14.2 million viewers, closing the WrestleMania 18 build-up with the biggest star power match in wrestling history, with Rock and Austin facing Hogan, Hall and Nash on March 11th in the Raw main event, followed by Hogan and Rock continuing the string of all-time iconic shows, with March 18th hitting 7-month high numbers across the board, from the 25-minute opening segment to them teaming up for the first time against Hall and Nash in front of one of the hottest crowds in history in Montreal, leading up to what can be called the nightly boom period that started to escalate in late '97 was done as the official end of the Attitude Era, with the company taking one of the riskiest moves in its history by splitting the roster in the first ever draft on wrestling television, leading to major intrigue politically on the selection order of top names to potentially signal on the legit hierarchy in the company, with the draft show which saw Rock selected as the #1 pick more than matching expectations to draw near peak period viewership of over 7.3 million viewers, with the second hour driven by 2 big matches of Rock and Hogan against the NWO and Triple H defending the title against Jericho and Stephanie, each hitting over 8 million viewers, totaling over 7.7 million viewers to make it the second most watched hour in TNN history, only behind the over 8 million viewers for the second hour on Rock's return night on July 30th. And with the WWF opening the year with a run of business almost unmatched in company history, the first quarter of 2002 saw the WWF in the quarterly business report ending the peak run in a fitting manner with the highest grossing quarter in company history, driven by an almost unprecedented string of pay-per-views, with the Rumble, No Way Out and WrestleMania 18 averaging around 700,000 domestic buys, along with strong viewership on both brands holding up strong to 2001 figures, and massive spike in merchandise sales to record levels for the first NWO line under the WWF brand, combined with the usually strong Rock and Austin items and major boost for the Icon vs Icon WrestleMania 18 line, all doing huge numbers.
Heading into Mania, and that's Rock versus Hogan. Well, that's the big match. That's the main event. Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to work with Scott Hall. And so, I mean, all due respect and props to him, but, you know, Hogan was the guy that I needed to work with.
The original finish for WrestleMania 18 was that Hulk was going to do a job for Rock, and then Austin was going to do a job for me with Kev on the outside. Mm-hmm. The night before the show in Toronto, Vince summoned me, Hulk, and Kev to his suite in the hotel and wanted to discuss the finish, which I thought was kind of weird because we had talked about it nearly 5 months earlier.
You can't ever walk off the job like this. So we had the history of this happening the day after WrestleMania. I just chalked it up to the fact that he was burned out. That's what he said.
He left at WrestleMania. You know, I know he was supposed to lose to Scott Hall, and then there was some commotion in the back, and he ended up beating Scott Hall. He left after WrestleMania, and after that he walked out. Then he came back a few weeks later and walked out again.
The number 1 pick, The Rock.
Whoa! The first pick in the draft.
Stone Cold is on Raw. Woo!
With the internal conflict rumored for several months, with him not liking the positioning and direction of his character in the pecking order since playing second fiddle to Rock and Hogan in the build-up to the WrestleMania 18 pay-per-view promoted as the match to determine who goes down in history as the greatest of all time, culminating on March 18th with Steve Austin walking out to take an unannounced 2-week break. As with Hogan and Rock again the focal point of the show, the Austin situation led to changes to the original Raw script on short notice, with him reportedly scheduled to be involved in the McMahon-Flair segment at 10 p.m. to set up his draft pick for the following week, escalating the political tension on March 25th with Rock drafted as the number 1 pick to see Austin missing one of the biggest Raw shows in history that was supposed to see him getting picked second overall by Ric Flair to Raw. With the plan for months since the idea of the brand split first came up was to have Rock and Austin each leading a brand on Raw and SmackDown to carry 2 separate crews on the road in major markets, with Austin, despite clarifying his absence as just needing some time off to recharge, growing more frustrated by the week, with his management and creative dispute continuing for the next several months until publicly escalating to new heights, with him shooting on creative on a bite this interview on May 31st to pretty much end his full-time wrestling career and create the unthinkable scenario of the company facing the situation of the 2 men in Rock and Austin who were targeted to carry the split rosters concept for the past year, being permanently off the TV product and road schedule at a crucial time, with a strong possibility of them never working a full-time schedule again going forward.
Rock, I mean, are you still a wrestler who acts? Are you now an actor who wrestles?
That's a good question.
Ratings for the Raw program and the SmackDown program are down. They're down, though, from phenomenally high levels, and they're still very good by any cable standard. Pay-per-view revenues, it's down off the peak. And right. Some of the attendance at live shows, down off the peak. And people will say, wait a second, the big star, probably the star with the biggest upside in the history of modern wrestling, The Rock, is now off to be a movie star. Mm-hmm. So if his participation in wrestling is significantly reduced, then the trend looks like it's continuing in the wrong direction for Vince.
In terms of the creation of Rock, the superstar in world wrestling entertainment, you know, before Rock, there was Stone Cold Steve Austin, there's the Hulk, there's, Bruno Sammartino, you go right on back. We're still fighting this out, and we're still appealing
So you're hoping to reclaim it, but for the moment it's WWE?
It's World Wrestling Entertainment.
The ratings are going to go down. There's no question they're going to go down.
On occasion, you have to take a half step back. That's what we decided to do when we started this brand extension, as we call it now.
With the momentum from the huge audience watching the draft episodes still rolling, with initial strong curiosity for the brand extension, with the concept seeing the almost consensus Mount Rushmore of wrestling in Hogan, Rock, Austin and Flair all working full-time to head the 2 brands. The initial stages as the planned ideal situation for the past year saw both programs headlined by Rock and Austin to strong numbers, with Rock vs. Jericho headlining SmackDown while Austin's decision segment with Flair and McMahon headlined Raw, resulting in SmackDown having a 6.7 to 6.6 million viewers lead over Raw in the first official week, but with that ideal scenario being cut short just as it started, with the April 4th SmackDown being Rock's last WWF TV appearance before going on a massive media tour to promote the release of the Scorpion King, leading to SmackDown immediately taking a major hit with numbers dropping over the next few weeks, while Raw, headed by Austin's feud with Flair, Taker and the NWO, remained strong above the 6 million viewers range and for the first time in months led Raw to outdraw SmackDown in total viewers on a consistent basis. seeing its most watched segment of the month coming on the debut show of the new era on April 1st, with the biggest visual change for the brand in 5 years, headlined by Austin's first appearance since walking out after WrestleMania to pick Flair on the Raw brand, with his return segment hitting over 7.8 million viewers in the 6-minute overrun. And with the legal issues going on in the background for several years, with April 2002 in a sign of things to come, ending up the final month in Raw history to average above the 6 million viewers range, May 6th saw one of the most consensusly unwanted moves in its history, with the company forced to change its name to World Wrestling Entertainment, after debuting its new rebranding campaign on the company website over the weekend, seeing the WWE debut show opening strong to average 6.5 million viewers. Driven by a Hogan-Taker segment and a 6-man tag main event, each drawing 5 rating peaks, with a name change thought to initially have no repercussions for the future other than a major blow to the legacy of the company, ending up another crucial factor with viewers disconnect, with no Raw broadcast in history ever topping the first WWE show going forward, including a massive decline for the brand throughout the month, with May 2002 seeing Raw, after starting with 6.5 million. Ending it with a nearly 2 million viewers drop to average 4.8 million on May 27th, with the impact of the two major factors in the self-inflicted brand split and forced name change hitting at the same time, with May 2002 publicly acknowledged as the first full month of the now post-boom period reality, with the most watched segment of the month for both brands coming on May 23rd, with Hulk Hogan a week after getting another all-time great ovation in Montreal and dropping the WWF title to end his final run, teasing a retirement announcement in a confrontation with Vince McMahon, drawing over 7.3 million viewers.
The bottom line is everything sucks. I'm not happy with the direction Stone Cold Steve Austin's going. I ain't happy with the direction the whole company's going. I think the writing has been pretty substandard. I'll go one better than that. It's been piss poor. I guess if that pisses some people off, then that's just the way it is.
Well, again, you know,
I think it could have been a hell of a lot better creative than it's been going on. It's pretty as a matter of fact, and I ain't been happy with what I've been doing before WrestleMania or after WrestleMania as we speak presently.
He took his ball and went home, and obviously I'm pissed off.
Take this with you. Oh, look out! Austin can take his ball and go home. As far as I'm concerned, this is home.
There's a tendency when business is not as good as it has been, you begin to, what we call in our business, oversell.
Where will the business find that niche and go over the top once again and bring the masses back?
I believe there's going to be a tidal wave from an attitudinal standpoint, a creative direction standpoint.
Ruthless aggression.
I had been meeting at Vince McMahon's house, and I went over a lot of creative with him. And, you know, Vince liked everything that I said to him. I went to the TV studio. I went in there with Vince. The first thing that was strange to me was this was the creative team, Joe. And I mean, bro, there were 12 to 15 people in that room. Vince gave them the introduction. He told them what my role was going to be, and then he left the room. I proceeded to lay out a year of creative. I know exactly what's going through their minds. If Vince McMahon brings Vince Russo in as the head of creative, there's no need for us. There was a call from Vince, and his exact words to me were, "Vince, this is not going to work out." I was not surprised by that at all. And I basically said to him, I said, "Why, Vince?" Because the minute I left, everybody in that room buried me to you, because there would be no need for them if you hired me.
With the situation escalating by the week since the start of the year, including Austin almost not showing up to Raw in Edmonton 2 weeks earlier when hearing about the plans for Benoit's turn to lay him out before being talked into it by JR over the weekend heading into May 27, June 10th saw one of the most chaotic TV days in company history, with Austin, who was set to be featured all over the show in 5 separate segments, including the main event against Brock Lesnar with Eddie Guerrero as special referee, being rewritten on the spot, with a furious Vince McMahon taking drastic measures to change the entire direction of the company's main storyline, with the brand split in an almost unprecedented situation, perhaps only resembling to a lesser extent the cancellation of all plans to run WCW as a separate brand right after the crowd reaction to the Booker vs. Bagwell match in Tacoma in July 2001. headlining the night with a Vince vs. Flair company on the line match, peaking at a 4.7 rating with over 6.6 million viewers, with McMahon taking back full control of the company. And with the headlines from the fallout only escalating by the day. Over the following week, a decision was made over the weekend to give Rock a call to make an emergency appearance on Raw, with him arriving to the building in Oakland approximately 15 minutes before going to the ring to avoid any chance of it being reported, with him sending Vince McMahon out of the ring to address the live crowd and TV viewers in the ring alone, cutting an all-time memorable State of the Company promo to send Austin off while drawing Raw's most watched segment in over a month with over 6.8 million viewers. As with Rock only set to return for his summer run on July 11th, and Vince McMahon during his Bite This interview the previous Friday reacting to the Austin situation, hinting at a direction change with a major rebranding campaign on and off screen. The bomb was officially dropped at 6 p.m. on Thursday, June 20th, with the company website posting the news that Vince Russo was hired back to oversee the creative teams of both the Raw and SmackDown brands, with the reunion of the most successful creative combination in industry history in Russo and McMahon ending up lasting one creative meeting with Russo a day later when laying out his plans for a long-term storyline involving Eric Bischoff and Shane McMahon feuding under Vince for control of the company, being moved politically to a consultant role before leaving 2 weeks later, with the June 24th Raw and what was said to be the start of the Russo regime with a reboot show of the product to kick off the new era, seeing McMahon still implementing several elements of the planned Russo direction, including Shane returning on the night, with him opening Raw to debut the new rebranding slogan of the era by challenging the talent roster to step up with ruthless aggression, with the first week of the new era with a depleted star power crew in comparison to just 2 months earlier, headlined by a new combination of Lesnar vs. Van Dam, followed by SmackDown 3 days later seeing John Cena making his TV debut against Kurt Angle in Chicago for the opening match, seeing Raw and SmackDown combining for 9.9 million viewers and the lowest combined viewership in history for both programs, and the first ever Raw and SmackDown week to drop below the 10 million viewers mark since SmackDown went on the air in August 1999.
We're trying to work on a kid and build him up. Stone Cold Steve Austin is not the first victim you feed him, I'm the last.
Rock was always smarter than that. You know, I remember one week on Creative, we had an idea for an episode of SmackDown where we would do Rock Hogan. And, you know, it would end in a schmoz, but it would just be like a little thing. It would generate some buzz, and we had a really good place we were going with it. And, you know, we got to TV, and, you know, Rock didn't want to do Rock Hogan on TV with no build-up.
With the peak numbers of the boom period still fresh in mind, with the company urgently trying to bring back the audience despite the acknowledgement of the expected drop for both brands following the new concept of the brand extension, mid-2002 saw the company looking to capitalize on its loaded talent roster by hot-shotting some of the biggest matches ever seen on wrestling television on almost a weekly basis, the majority of them with little to no build-up due to the rapid-paced nature of their product, with 4 hours of primetime television, perhaps peaking on Tuesday, July 23rd in the SmackDown TV taping in Indianapolis, with the company looking to create major buzz for the promoted season premiere of the new era with a blockbuster main event, suggesting putting on the Rock vs. Hogan WrestleMania 18 rematch with less than 2 hours of build-up, leading to Rock, after hearing about the plan, reportedly pushing to change the original script, knowing that the rematch is eventually going to headline a major pay-per-view, with Rock and Hogan instead teaming up against Christian and Storm to peak the show midway through the broadcast in a match for the tag titles.
The new general manager of Raw, his name is Eric Bischoff.
As time goes on, this brand separation is going to be really, really good for us. We have had some stutter starts, but now with Steph and Bischoff juxtaposed, it looks like it's going to work.
Finally, The Rock returns. SmackDown this Thursday on UPN.
After the expected business struggles and chaotic changes in the past 2 months, the first sign of positive momentum started on July 11th, with Rock returning to kick off his summer run, driving SmackDown after a record-low audience the previous week on July 4th, with the biggest week-to-week viewership jump in show history, rebounding over 2.2 million viewers, Continuing to next Monday with another all-time memorable moment, seeing McMahon announcing Eric Bischoff as the new Raw general manager for his first appearance in the company, with the Bischoff debut promo placed at 10 p.m. spiking huge to the biggest quarter-to-quarter viewership gain of the year, jumping almost a full rating point within 15 minutes with over 1.3 million viewers, keeping the ball rolling heading in and coming out of the Vengeance pay-per-view with the Go-Home SmackDown headlined by Rock's first match back against Kurt Angle, driving a 3-month high audience, with the Rock Angle main event drawing over 7.4 million viewers in the most watched segment on WWE television since early April. Following up the all-time great three-way title match at Vengeance with July 22nd in the promoted first show of the Bischoff era and Rock's first draw as WWE Champion, hitting more 3-month highs, with Raw jumping big on the back of the most watched hour of Raw since the first show of the name change on May 6th, averaging over 6.1 million viewers, driven by two strong Rock and Eddie quarters drawing the most watched segments of the night, with their promo segment at 10 p.m. followed by their first ever singles match totaling over 6.7 million viewers, on a show also seeing the first Rock and Lesnar on-screen interaction to kick off the build-up to the SummerSlam main event, entering August with Rock back full-time on television and the company stabilizing to not only stop the slide but starting to rebound back, with business picking up across the board to build to one of the most anticipated cards in history heading into the SummerSlam pay-per-view, seeing the month also featuring one of the biggest non-televised events in company history, with a WrestleMania caliber gate of nearly 60,000 people packing the Colonial Stadium in its return to Australia, headlined by Rock defending the title against Lesnar and Hunter in the three-way title match, with their road to SummerSlam after strong television hyping the event, headed by the first ever Rock vs. Lesnar main event, closed with strong momentum between August 19th to 22nd, with both shows drawing some of the biggest numbers in months, with Raw headlined by the final Rock vs. Triple H match peaking at over 6.3 million viewers, followed by the August 22nd SmackDown headlined by a show-long angle building to the first Rock and Lesnar collision, with a Rock and Edge vs. Benoit and Guerrero main event, peaking in the final quarter for the 12-minute match and first Rock vs. Brock confrontation, with over 7.1 million viewers to drive it to the most watched week of WWE television since the week after the WWF name change, with both shows combining for 11.5 million viewers, with the massive month ending up having significant impact on the company's bottom line in the August to October quarterly business reports, with the Rock-driven month of August, which besides the boosted attendance and viewership included the huge Australia Stadium show and one of the biggest SummerSlams in history, almost entirely holding up the company's wrestling side revenue for the entire quarter, with Rock, who in his last appearance for the year set the stage for 2003 by turning heel on the New York crowd, also driving revenue increases in his absence, with television right fees increasing entirely on the back of the company's executive producer fees for Rock's Rundown movie.
3 years ago, at its peaks, the #1 program on cable television.
We're a business that is driven by stars involved in stimulating storylines. One without the other just doesn't work.
There is no subject matter which we can't touch in one way or another. Come up with these publicity stunts and whatever to attract viewers. No different than any other television program. They all do it. We're going to go into controversial subjects to get people talking about, they're going to the edge again. We're not going to stay in one little niche. Wherever it is we want to go, we're going to go as long as our audience comes with us.
Buzz about the WWF, which is now known as the WWE.
Who are named Billy and Chuck.
Billy and Chuck, good morning. Congratulations.
I'm really pleased with the way that Billy and Chuck as characters.
Playing our characters on TV to the hilt for the premiere of SmackDown.
Billy Gunn and Chuck Palumbo will get married on tonight's WWE SmackDown. It's tonight at 8 o'clock on UPN.
We did edgy stuff when we were on top. And when we do edgier stuff and our numbers are down a little, they criticize us for wanting to shock people into watching the show back. This is what we've always done.
Katie Vick!
What sick freak thought of that?
If we go too far, then you can always pull back. Katie Vick, I guess, is an example of that, which I thought was hilarious, personally speaking.
Katie Vick, I liked it. Come on. That is like high comedy if there ever is.
With Lesnar now an exclusive SmackDown performer and the TV products on both brands having a noticeably different identity than at any point since the brand extension started in April, The company went a step further with the separation on September 2nd, with Triple H, who for the first time in his career was being positioned to carry a show as the top promoted performer on the brand heading into the new TV season, being handed the exclusive Raw World title, with him placed all over the show to mixed results, unusually being involved in both the most and least watched segments of the night, first with the first ever Flair vs. Hunter singles match peaking the show at 10 p.m. with over 5.3 million viewers, followed by the tag match an hour later drawing the least watched Raw main event in over 4 years, in a sign of things to come, with the figures on the night not topped for the rest of the year, heading into the most challenging TV season for the program in years, starting the following Monday. As with the company looking to counter the start of football season on cable for Raw and new series lineup on network television for SmackDown, the September 9th to 12 week of WWE television was unusually built on 2 publicity stunts in hopes of intentionally stirring things up for the buzz to offset the expected viewership drop, leading to a massive viewership contrast between the attempts on both shows, rarely ever seen in the industry, with Monday's stunt of Eric Bischoff hyping HLA for a segment seeing the quarter drawing 4.5 million viewers on a show that saw Raw in the first week against Monday Night Football hitting over 4-year lows across the board to average 4.3 million viewers, while just 3 days later, after a week of massive mainstream exposure with the Billy and Chuck ceremony stunt hitting big to headline the season premiere of the 2002 to 2003 TV season, SmackDown on the back of the ceremony segment spiked to a 5-month high of over 6.2 million viewers, driven by the 25-minute segment peaking at one of the most watched segments in the brand extension era with over 7.5 million viewers, to result in an almost unprecedented gap between the stunts of over 3 million viewers, with the hours when both quarters took place also seeing SmackDown having a huge 6.9 to 4.4 million viewers lead, with the momentum continuing to trend in the opposite directions, with SmackDown maintaining the viewership boost to remain at the 6 million viewers range for the next 2 months, while Raw, with a depleted star power crew compared to the peak run of the last 4 years, stabilized at the 4.6 million viewers range, and the biggest sustained gap between the shows to date. And if the attempts to boost numbers in early September came in shock TV publicity stunts to create a buzz in the casual audience, the final SmackDown of the month on September 26th ended up kicking off an experiment of a different kind, with the show headlined by 2 pay-per-view caliber matches of Edge vs. Eddie and Angle Benoit Mysterio in a 3-way match, holding up strong against one of the most competitive nights of television of the year, with the Guerrero vs. Edge match in particular jumping over 1 million viewers throughout, and a rare TV match going over 20 minutes. Leading to the company noticing the number, with the Edge-Eddie match starting an experiment for the next 2 weeks, with both Raw and SmackDown headed by the SmackDown 6 combinations, featuring a 20-plus minute match on back-to-back shows for the first time in their history, seeing the new approach initially leading to encouraging results, with all 4 matches doing strong numbers on both brands, with the experimental angles to bring back the audience continuing simultaneously, with both No Mercy title main events being built on soap opera storytelling, with the Lesnar-Taker feud seeing Tracy being introduced into the angle, while Raw's Hunter vs. Kane title match was built around one of the most infamous segments in wrestling TV history, culminated in the Katie Vick funeral home skit on October 21st. After the massive wave of reactions from every corner of the industry, leading to boosted anticipation on the number, which ended up drawing the peak 4.1 rating with over 5.2 million viewers, the most watched full Raw quarter hour in almost 2 months, to justify Vince McMahon strongly advocating for the segment, with him going as far as sending out an internal office memo noting a drawing the peak rating of the night.
Booker T, Rob Van Dam, Kane, Jericho, Shawn Michaels, Elimination Chamber.
We have separate live event touring, since each brand is only doing 1 day of television. Tremendous growth and tremendous opportunity.
With Vince McMahon and the company in general taking a perception hit in the past 6 months, with the TV and entertainment industries noticing Raw and SmackDown's viewership decline from the peak after years of dominating the top of the weekly TV charts. The November 4th Raw saw Vince McMahon going with another new approach by giving an almost unprecedented access to the behind-the-scenes process of WWE television, with reporters from the local Boston Globe magazine given backstage access to all the internal meetings during the day of television, detailing a rare look at the weekly making of Raw, with Vince directing multiple segments including the show-long angle of Michaels chasing Hunter, going with a similar situation a month later for the December 12th SmackDown from Atlanta being covered during the day by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution publication, on a day that ended up significant for different reasons, with Hulk Hogan visiting the crew in the building for the first time in months since his latest dispute with McMahon, followed by Vince just hours later confirming in the article for the first time publicly that both Rock and Austin are set to return to the company in early 2003, with the month hitting a major low point on November 11th, with Raw dropping sharply on the night to its lowest rating in nearly 5 years, in the process resulting in the gap from SmackDown, which just 4 days earlier jumped to its joint biggest audience in 7 months, hitting new heights with a 6.2 to 4 million viewers gap between the broadcasts in the span of 4 days, leading to calls for a major shakeup on Raw, with McMahon responding by changing all 5 titles at the Survivor Series pay-per-view while debuting what turned out to be the biggest difference maker on WWE television for the rest of the year, with Scott Steiner after a month of hype debuting in the company to a massive reaction in the Garden, with him making his first televised appearance on Raw a day later, along with curiosity on the new cage structure, with the debut of the Elimination Chamber driving the biggest week-to-week viewership gain in the past year on the back of Steiner's debut segment, drawing an over 3-month high audience with over 5.6 million viewers, creating a situation of both shows having an almost guaranteed weekly drawing boosts, with SmackDown after a major career resurgence from Paul White with a sudden elevation back to a main event spot, seeing the Lesnar vs. Big Show feud delivering big on a weekly basis, with their segments peaking nearly every week by strong margins since show debuted on the brand, while Raw headed by Steiner after the Shawn Michaels comeback experiment showed disconnect with the audience to mixed results, picking things up with every appearance going forward, with him following the big debut segment closing the year with his first 2 segments with Triple H combined spiking over 1.6 million viewers, in numbers rarely seen in the current TV season, with perhaps the biggest story of December coming from a passing comment made by Rock during a radio interview in the Dallas market, all but confirming the plan for Rock vs. Goldberg to headline WrestleMania 19. Closing one of the most chaotic years in company history that started still at near-peak Attitude Era numbers with the biggest star power talent roster in history, before gradually sliding down with a series of forced and self-inflicted decisions, from the WWF name change to the brand split, combined with irreplaceable loss of major players throughout, with hopes of a massive rebound to start next year, with the company having the unprecedented situation of anticipating the returns of 5 of the biggest difference makers in wrestling TV history, with Rock, Hogan, Austin, Goldberg and Vince McMahon all about to come in at the same time to set the stage for a potential massive start to 2003.